A recent article by Bud Elliott with CBS Sports makes it clear why it's such an uphill battle for the Big 12 to ever win another national title in college football and why they are trying everything they can to bring in more revenue and why they must. And we're going to talk about all of that right after this word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up? Welcome in. Come on into another episode of Couz's Corner. Make yourself comfortable. Belly yourself up to the bar. Let me pour you out this shot of top shelf college football content. On tap at Couz's Corner today, we're talking about the Big 12. Why Brett Yormark and others in the Big 12 probably see the need to try to bring in as much revenue as they can to try to get as close to the Big 10 and SEC as they can, even if it means partnering with private equity firms. And why doing that may be the only way they ever have a chance to ever win another national title in college football, which in turn will help bring more revenue and more students to their institutions, to their universities, because we all know that sports is the front porch to these universities. And according to an article by John Wilner, these universities are all facing what he called, I think, and I might be misquoting here, but he called it basically an enrollment apocalypse or an enrollment Armageddon. College enrollment is about to fall off a cliff just because of demographics and a sharp decline in the number of college-age students in the next 2 to 3 years. And the Big 12 is worried about that because they're already so far behind these other conferences. But looking more specifically at the football side of this, I think this article by Bud Elliott shows us why the Big 12 is so worried about it, because they know that in order to be competitive, they need more resources. And how do you get more resources? You get more money. I mean, you look back at past history, national championships that have been won. The last time a current Big 12 school, when you look at the makeup of the new Big 12, the last time one of those schools won a national title was 1990 when Colorado, and I think they shared it with Georgia Tech. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Before that, you have to go back to 1984 when Brigham Young, BYU, won a national title. As a matter of fact, there are only 2 teams in the new Big 12 that have even made the college football playoff in the 14 format, and that is TCU and Cincinnati. And Cincinnati wasn't even in the Big 12 when they made it. The 2 teams who had made it, other than them, Texas and Oklahoma, they're out. They're going to the SEC now. So the SEC gets credit if they get to a college football playoff now, not the Big 12. And the reason why that is, the reason why these schools have been winning more national titles in the SEC and Big 10 is because they get better players. And I know a lot of people out there are going to come at me and say, Couz, star ratings don't matter. They do matter. And there's data to show it that it matters. And one of those pieces of data, one of the forms of analytics or analysis that shows us that is Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio. Now, a lot of people don't like Bud Elliott because he tends to have some hot takes at times, but it's hard to argue with his data here. He looks at the blue chip ratio. Basically, he looks at schools in their last 4 recruiting classes, the percentage of their recruits in those 4 classes that are 4- and 5-star recruits versus how many are 2- and 3-star recruits. And that percentage is a blue chip ratio. And almost every single time a team that wins the national title, over 50% of their roster or from their last 4 recruiting classes, over 50% of their recruits from the last 4 classes are 4- and 5-star recruits. He went all the way back to 2011, and it held true all the way back to 2011. When Alabama won 2 straight national titles in 2011 and 2012, they were at 71% blue chip ratio. It followed through all the way through last season when Michigan was at 54% on their blue chip ratio. Even Clemson's 2 national titles, they were over 50%. Georgia's, they were at 80% in one of their national title years. It matters. How many 4- and 5-star recruits you have on your roster matters. Yes, player development matters. But if you have a 4-star recruit and you have him on your roster for 4 years and you recruit and you develop him for 4 years, and you have a 2-star that you develop for 4 years, which one's going to be better at the end of the 4 years, the 4-star or the 2-star? The 4-star, because he was better from the start. Now, do recruiting services always get it right? No, they miss on guys occasionally, but they get it right more than they get it wrong, at least according to Bud Elliott's analysis. And I think I tend to agree with him. Now, on most of these recruits, most of your top NFL draft picks are 4- and 5-star recruits. It just is what it is. The numbers show it, the numbers bear it out. I'm going to share Bud's article with you real quick, and we'll look at it at this year's list. Here's this year's blue chip ratio list from Bud Elliott. Let me go ahead and make this full screen so you can see a little bit easier. Take that off the screen. Now we're cooking with gas. All right, you've got Ohio State, 90% blue chip ratio. Alabama, 88. Georgia, 80. Texas A&M, 79. Oregon, 76. Oklahoma, 73. Texas, 72. LSU, 70. Notre Dame, 67. Clemson, 64. Florida, 63. Miami, 61. Penn State, 61. USC is at 59. Michigan's at 56. Auburn is at 53. Florida State barely missed out on making it. They were at 49%, and he expects them to be in next year. Again, this goes back to the last 4 recruiting classes and the percentage of 4- and 5-star recruits on your roster. Now, this is based strictly on high school recruits. It doesn't count transfer portal players. He does touch on that in the article. I'll leave a link to it. But Bud still believes that national championship teams are built from the high school ranks. You get the players in, you retain them, you develop them, and in 3 to 4 years, they're winning national titles for you. And if you're 2 and 3 deep, is all made up of 4- and 5-star recruits, or mostly made up of 4- and 5-star recruits who are practicing every day against other 4- and 5-star recruits, it makes your team better. You have quality of your depth. The quality of your depth is better than a team who has all 3-star recruits in the 2 deep, or maybe 1 or 2 4- and 5-star guys, and then everybody else is 3 stars. It matters. Now, look, I'm a fan of a team that doesn't get a whole lot of 4- and 5-star guys. So this is not pleasant for me to talk about here, but I just think it goes to show you why Brett Yormark in the Big 12 is looking at this and going, man, with this financial gap, the SEC and Big 10 are making 80, 90 million a year per team, and we're only making 30. Then, oh, by the way, we've got to pay this $20 million a year house case settlement every year out in profit sharing. That doesn't leave us a whole lot of money left to pay coaches. It doesn't leave us a lot of money left to, in upgrade facilities or other things. Whatever it takes to recruit players, you don't have a whole lot of money left for that stuff. To host official visits, all these things that cost money. Resources and finances matter, and it matters more today. It may matter more today than ever. Yormark knows it, and that's why he's throwing out all the stops, even potentially bringing in private equity, in my opinion. Now, how many Big 12 teams did you see on this blue chip ratio list from Bud Elliott? A whopping goose egg, a big 0. And he goes on to talk about it. He talks about how 13 of the 16 teams were from the SEC and Big 10. 8 of those 13 were from the SEC. Guess who wins most of the national titles? The SEC. Guess who gets more 4- and 5-star recruits? The SEC. He goes on to say the Big 12 has 0 teams who are realistically even 3 recruiting cycles away from having a team on this list. 3 recruiting cycles away, and he goes on 4-year recruiting cycles. Think about it. He goes on to say for national title winning purposes, the ACC is closer to the Big 10 than it is to the Big 12. Boy, that hurts me to say that. At least until the outcome of ongoing lawsuits against the league from Florida State and Clemson are resolved. Now, if you take Clemson and Miami off that list, it only leaves you with Notre Dame, who's not technically in the ACC in football. But now Miami hasn't done a good job with the talent they've gotten so far. Again, development is still a piece of this. But if you don't have the Jimmies and Joes, the X's and O's don't matter near as much. Now, it might help you. It might take you from a losing team to a bowl team, or from a bowl team to an 8 or 9 win team. But is development alone with 3-star recruits going to win you a national title? It don't. Now, Bud goes on to talk about how at some point you are going to see a team who's not on the blue chip ratio you're going to see a team not on that win a national title at some point. It will happen, and it can happen. So am I saying the Big 12 will never win a national title? No. But it's extremely, extremely difficult. It's a very steep uphill climb. And if they don't do something to at least tighten the financial gap, it may never happen. They've got to do something, because the gap's going to continue to get wider. In my opinion, they've got to do something. If it means bringing in private equity, then maybe that's what it takes to do it. But again, if you want 5-star players, you've got to be able to pay them like 5-star players. You've got to be able to max out on your profit sharing. You also have to have a lot of donors who can chip in more NIL money. You have to be able to have nice facilities. You have to be able to have the best coaches. And in order to do that, you have to pay those coaches. All of that takes money, folks. And if you want to win national titles, you need 4- and 5-star players to do it. So again, that's reasons why teams like West Virginia don't win national titles very often. As a matter of fact, we've never won one in football. I've come close twice in my lifetime, but never have been able to get over the hump, because it's an uphill battle, because you're trying to do it with 3-star guys mostly. Now, what West Virginia's been able to do is find 3-star guys who these recruiting services have probably missed on, and maybe develop them even better than other coaches might have, and utilize them in ways that other coaches can't, and get the best out of them. But you have to strike gold in some guys. You have to have some luck. You have to have the ball bounce your way, and you have to have guys stay healthy in order to do it. Again, is it possible? Yes, but extremely unlikely, and they will not be able to do it if they don't do something to close the financial gap. And if that means private equity, then that's probably what the Big 12 is going to do. I want to hear your thoughts about this blue chip ratio by Bud Elliott. What are your thoughts? Do you think the Big 12 will ever win a national title? The new Big 12 will ever win a national title in football? And do you think private equity is a necessity, or at least do you think they need, if that's the only way they can do it, should they do it? I want to hear your thoughts. I want to give a shout out right now to my VIP channel members of this episode: Oaksters Live, Daniel Gigax, WVU Earl, and Kenny Evans. I want to thank you all for your financial support of the channel. If you want to become a member of this list, hit the join button below, or hit the join button over on my YouTube channel homepage. Pick which level you want to join. It's an easy way to support what I do here. Money comes right out of your bank account each month, but you can cancel at any time, so there's no long-term commitment. I appreciate you tuning into this episode. Check this one out right here. If you want more content about the Big 12, have a top shelf day, and cue Country Roads.